Hello, good evening everyone. My name is Diamond Esperanza Morquecho, and I am one of your peers in the Teaching of Reading 4308 course, and I am happy to be sharing this course with you all this semester. It is a pleasure to meet all of y'all, and I would like to start by sharing a recollection of my memories of my earliest literacy experiences. And it all begins from birth to 2 years old. So I was adopted by my grandparents at around 7 months. So in our home, I had two elderly grandparents who, one, my grandfather, did not get to go through all of his years of schooling because he had to drop out to help his family with the farm. My grandmother, on the other hand, was able to graduate high school, and she instilled in me very early on that literacy was very important in acquiring a higher level of education. So from my earliest years, what I can recall was that she read to me daily, and if not daily, many times per week. And of course, it would be from books that she either thrifted, books that she bought through the mail, through catalogs that she would see, through books that coworkers or family members would give to her who had children who no longer needed that certain level of book because their children were getting older. And I recall that some of the books that she kept in this bookshelf for me were interactive books. They had bubbles, they had poppets, like you had to pop them. I recall that, they were touch, feel, see books, to get my senses going. She had books that catered to my interest. At a very young age, my family learned that I loved Dora the Explorer, so I had a lot of books about Dora the Explorer, about Diego, her cousin, and they were leveled readers, so I had a lot of level 1 books about Dora. From around 2 to 5 years of age, I was enrolled in a Migrant Head Start program. At this Migrant Head Start program, much like a daycare setting, as I work in a daycare setting now, there were many learning centers readily available to us. Our teachers read to us regularly. Sometimes they would turn off the lights and, act out stories. And of course, there was still light in the room, but a lot of dramatic reading sessions. We heard a lot of nursery rhymes. They would give us dry erase boards with dots to trace letters, and so we would trace the letters. They had us in the morning come in and sign our names, and of course it was just pretend signatures, right? Just scribble, but they would have us practice our writing skills as many times throughout the day. And our reading skills, they had a pretend reading center, which of course we couldn't read the books, but we could pretend and just copy the reading habits that were being modeled to us by our teachers. At 5 years of age, I was then able to enroll in kindergarten. What I recall a lot from my kindergarten and first grade literacy learning experiences is that in class we had a designated area to read. And I remember that a lot of the books were catered to our age group, but it also had a grade lower and a grade higher. And I remember that in first grade, we were then separated into groups based on our reading level. And I'm not particularly sure which group I was in. I'm not too sure, but I do know that I was put in a small group of maybe about 5 other individuals or 4 other individuals, students who we all shared the same reading level, and that's what we had in common. And we were given challenges to help boost our reading. Much of my early childhood, I remember that for writing, they had us tracing letters, they had us doing, playing educational games, listening and watching videos from Leapfrog. And I remember that they would challenge us with writing, coming up with our own stories and writing our own stories. And of course, as a child, looking back at the letters, the words that I was writing didn't make much sense. But my teachers, they seemed to understand that level, that early level of writing and reading, and they were able to determine whether it was average, if we were meeting the milestones necessary. A lot of my kindergarten and first grade recollection include a circle time where we would all sit down in front of our teacher and she would read to us a book, sometimes using a pointer and sometimes using those very giant books, jumbo books that had jumbo words. And I just remember I fell in love with those books. And a lot of these experiences really shaped me into having a positive relationship with reading. Of course, now into my adulthood, I don't read as much, but growing up, I had a love for reading, and that was because of the incredible influences, such as my teachers, my mom, who would read in her free time because it was fun for her. My friends who also liked to pretend to read next to me, or actually read once we came closer into first grade. And I just remember just all these beautiful examples of healthy reading habits being modeled to me by those closest to me, such as my mom and my teachers. It even got to a point where I would read in my free time. In third grade, I remember I began to read chapter books. And from then on, I read every chance that I could growing up. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to hearing and seeing your responses and responding to all of you guys.